It's about time you learn a secret about me. You may deny it. You may not believe it's true. But my IQ is not that high. I actually am a slow learner. I've always struggled with learning new things. Now, ironically, I'm a very good teacher. I have a teaching background. I'm very good at communicating things. But I have a hard time learning things, and then once I learn them, I master them, and then I teach them. So there's some irony right there. But in school, anything to do with math or science, engineering, anything that I would consider the smart kids were easy at, calculus, any of that, no, that wasn't my thing. Naturally, I gravitated toward English and reading and creative writing and public speaking. Those were my things. Now, what's interesting is a lot of focus is put on IQ, how smart you are. And often we assign that with people who are good at math, science, engineering, etc. We don't often associate that with people who are good at public speaking, theater, things like that. Understanding people, emotional intelligence. But let's talk about this. While I do not have a high IQ, and I'm not ashamed of that, I have to compensate for that. So for me, I compensate with it. Emotional Intelligence, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So I have a high EQ. I am fascinated by the concept that, and please Google this, don't take my word for it. Look up the concept of someone who has a high IQ and how much money they make. And then someone who has a high EQ, which is emotional intelligence, and how much money they make. Google it, you'll see that people who have a high EQ are more likely to actually make a better living, make more money than people with a high IQ. Just because you have a high IQ doesn't mean you end up being a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is. And even then, you may end up in a situation where you work in the medical field and then you have all this debt. Well, that's another thing for me. It's like I make the perfect amount of money to be happy and have everything I need, but to not have a super high overhead that I feel that I need to match that. So less is more, ultimately finding that middle ground, and that works for me. But what's interesting is people assume that I'm smart. I'm not. I have figured out how to hack the human brain. Again, largely thanks to that book, thanks to the Bible is largely a book on emotional intelligence. When you look at what Jesus taught, emotional intelligence, it's all about not assigning emotions to other people and judging other people, but instead looking internally, thinking, how can I improve? How can I serve other people instead of myself? Because let's face it, nobody likes a person who's selfish. They like a person who caters to their needs. And when you do that, naturally people like you more. And naturally, when you don't let your own ego get in the way of things, aka emotion, if you go around with a mentality thinking, how could I be offended by anyone today if I'm already ready to forgive them for anything that they do or say? I can't feel like a victim, even if they do honk the horn at me or flip me off because they feel that I cut them off in traffic or whatever arbitrary thing it is. It's emotional intelligence. And what happens is when people like you because they think that you're nice, in reality what it is that you're not selfish, you're serving them, it means better things come your way. I'm not talking about karma at all. I'm talking about you treat everyone the same with the same level of respect. You don't look down on anyone for any reason. You don't judge people. You don't think less of them because they believe the wrong side of the political fence or whatever it is. You look at everyone the same. You look at the janitor the same as the CEO, and you smile and you talk to them and you learn their name. This is how the world actually works. And I'm living it, and I'm loving it. I'm not endorsing McDonald's right now. But if you want to go to McDonald's, you should. You should do whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy, because it's not for me to judge what you eat for dinner. But yeah, ultimately, I don't have a high IQ. I don't pretend to, but people assume that I do because I'm, quote, good at communicating. But largely, it's just that I study emotional intelligence. It's something a lot of people don't even understand what that concept means. Well, I love it. I love being able to say, I don't have all the answers. I love being able to say when I sense that someone's trying to prove me wrong, saying, you know what, you're probably right. I never thought about that. Tell me more about that. I want to understand that better. assuming that I'm wrong at least half the time, means that I can be more open-minded to learn new things. Maybe the other person is wrong, but maybe I'm wrong. So a lot of times people just want credit for being right, or at least they think that they're right, so you give them that credit. Instead of debating them, be open-minded enough to think, might as well hear them out, because how else do you learn something? Sometimes you have to realize that you are wrong, even if you thought that there's no way you could be wrong. A lot of times people just want praise or pity or some kind of confirmation. Give them that. Give them the thing that they're so desperate for. Be mindful yourself of, am I ultimately wanting confirmation from people all the time? Am I wanting praise from people? Am I wanting pity from people? Well, once you realize that about yourself, you're that much easier to serve other people. And when you start listening to people, you realize, okay, this is a pity person or this is a praise person. Wow, you did that? That's amazing. Tell me more about how you did that, praise. Or, oh wow, that's got to be so tough. I don't see how you even process that. I mean, what's that like? Tell me more about it. Pity. When you do that, you become more likable, especially as you're smiling, looking them in the eyes, saying their name in conversation. I mean, this is all stuff from the book. So it's interesting that you don't have to have a high IQ to be successful in life, to be liked in life. And it's not just this book. Again, go back to the Bible. You can go to the New Testament and look at the teachings of Christ. You can go back to the Old Testament and look at King Solomon writing Proverbs. You can look at all these teachings of emotional intelligence, and not just the Christian religion or the Jewish religion, but also you'll find this in the same thing with Islam. Same concept. It's largely about emotional intelligence. And Confucius back in China, it's very similar. It's these constant teachings of emotional intelligence that actually make you smarter in a way that's not valued collectively the same. Yet, strangely enough, people who are emotionally intelligent tend to make more money. And that's not a coincidence. Because when you understand people better, you understand how they're motivated by things, you're able to give them what they want. One of the secrets in life is when you give other people what they want, instead of trying to take it away from them or bullying them into it or forcing them, if you make them think it's their idea and give them the credit for it, they like you more. There's a difference between just being so nice and then people walking over you, but there's another thing that if you can give a person a thing that they want, give it to them. Do they want the credit? Do they want the confirmation? Do they want the pity? Do they want the praise? Give it to them. And they actually see you as stronger in that way. Your comments belong below.